Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, John Haynes, A Conversation with Death. The man who rules the world and the angel of darkness take on a horde of demons in this inaugural John Haynes series adventure. Get John Haynes, A Conversation with Death for 99 cents on Kindle or in paperback today. There are some who say that I should not say that white racists are mentally ill. And they say that I shouldn't say that white racists are mentally ill because they would use that as some sort of excuse. However, from my objective observation, all I can see a white racist or a white supremacist is as a completely mentally ill person. And the reason why I see these white racists and white supremacists as mentally ill is because these people believe that they are superior to everyone, when in actuality, all we have to do is look at their economic and social living conditions to see how inferior they truly are. Now, many of these white supremacists, they live in places like the Deep South, and they believe in the concept of this so-called old Southern tradition. Now, the old Southern tradition and even parts of the old Northern tradition was this, that black people were supposed to be inferior during slave times. They were supposed to be dumber, and because they were inferior, that gave white people a right to oppress them. However, all we have to do is look at America during the Reconstruction period to see how the concept of the old Southern tradition was completely refuted. Now, when we take a look at Reconstruction America, we clearly saw many of the former slaves who had skilled trades go out here and start businesses. We saw many other black people go out here and get educations. We saw black people go out here building towns, building communities, holding political offices in the South. And all those black people went out here when they had a fair shake in America. They showed us that all the ideas and beliefs that were created during the so-called old Southern tradition were completely refuted from the period of the Reconstruction all the way up to the period of the Civil Rights Movement. They show us that when it comes down to black people getting an equal opportunity, they can be on the same level as white people, and they can achieve and accomplish on the same level as white people, and compete on the same level as white people. That's what any logical thinking person would see if, as related to black people. And they would say, once they have seen this, that the whole concept of this old Southern tradition of the Negro being under the white man, all of that would be completely scuttled. However, when it comes down to these racists, they don't want to believe that concept because when it comes down to the racist, they want to hold on to this old Southern tradition and many of the racist ideas in it, even though those ideas have been proven false. And the only person who would want to hold on to an idea, even though it has been proven false, is a completely insane person. And the reason why I say many of these racist and white supremacists are insane is this. You're holding on to a concept that has been proven wrong by the sheer fact that we had black people during the Reconstruction who showed they could be on the same level as white people and, if given an opportunity, could run their own lives and run their own part of the country. However, because these white racists are insecure, feel inadequate about themselves, and want to try to maintain that false sense of superiority, they try to shape reality into the delusion that they have about black people. And they try to create their own idea of black people, and they try to reinforce that idea. And whenever someone decides to present them with the reality of what actually is for black people, they go out of their way to try to destroy what is reality. And that's what the Ku Klux Klan did by going out here to terrorize black people by destroying their homes, destroying their businesses, and lynching black people. And that's what many of these white females went out here and made these accusations to destroy towns like Rosewood and Black Wall Street, and even destroy the lives of individual educated black men and working class black men, because they could not deal with the idea that a black person was on the same level as they are, and even could possibly surpass them, because their minds could not handle the red pill reality that black people were on the same level as they were. That is something that many of these racists, they just can't process. So because they cannot process these logical facts that are presented to them, what they do is they try to shape reality and make it into something that it isn't, by trying to terrorize people into believing their delusion. Because when it comes down to many black folks, that's what the Ku Klux Klan was trying to do, was trying to make you believe their reality for black people, and make you believe this whole concept that white people are supreme, white people have all the power, white people control everything, and they want you to get into their matrix and buy into their ideas by using their force. But the whole problem with black people is that they keep buying into the ideas of crazy people. These white racists and white supremacists, these are crazy people. And they're crazy because they're sitting there trying to mold things to fit into our archaic ideas that have long passed, like the old Southern tradition of slavery, and like the idyllic idea of the 1950s, and these days the idyllic idea of the 1980s. They have these rose-colored glasses on required about these time periods, and they don't see the harsh realities of any of them. When it comes down to many of your racist and white supremacists, these are guys who have taken the blue pill, and they want to stay in their delusional dreamland, and they want people to fit into their delusional dreamland so they can have their smooth world. And inside of their smooth world, they can be the person that's on top of people, and they can have misery to join them in their company. Because when we take a look at your places where racists are, they usually are some of the poorest places in the country, and they are some of the places that are most exploited. All you have to do is do the research on many of these areas of the South where Jim Crow was under control, and you could clearly see that many of those places were controlled by corrupt politicians and corrupt businessmen who had everyone believing the whole idea of white superiority and black inferiority, while they were making money at the expense of both white people and black people. And again, this shows the insanity of many of these racists, because if these people were thinking clearly and thinking critically, they could see that the whole idea of a white person being supreme and a white person being superior is something that is a completely illogical and insane concept. And it really shows how insecure white racists are, because when it comes down to the white supremacists and the white racists, they are insecure about the fact that if a black person gets economic and political power, what they will do is use that economic and political power not only to compete against them, but to actually surpass them and get dominance over the country. That's what terrifies many of these white supremacists, because that is a complete shattering of their reality. And that's what the election of Barack Obama did to a lot of these white racists, is it was starting to shatter their imagined concept of white supremacy. And that's why many of them are so angry today. And that's why many of them feel so emboldened under this era of Trump, is because they feel like they can reestablish their white supremacy and reinforce their delusion. And they want to reinforce that delusion that they are still superior and that they can have their superiority But we clearly see that their whole concept of superiority is based on codependency. And it's based on codependency because they need that feeling of power over blacks, Latinos, Asians, and they need that feeling of power because they feel insecure about their own power. And because they feel insecure, this is why your racist has some serious mental issues. And again, these mental issues are what drive their mental delusions about being these superior people. But all you have to do is look at many of the so called superior people who believe the concept of white supremacy, and you see that they're not very superior at all. Most of them are poor, most of them are struggling, and what they want to do is have the idea that a black person is at the bottom of the world in order for them to feel any sort of semblance of peace. And that comes from a deeply troubled and disturbed mindset that you need to have somebody to be miserable in order for you to function. That's complete shows how completely dysfunctional your racist and your white supremacist truly is, and how deeply mentally damaged your racist and your white supremacists truly are. And that's why I say we really need to start talking about this from the mental health perspective, because this hatred of black people, there's clearly something mentally wrong with it, and this culture has mental illness behind it. This culture that white women teach their sons and their daughters, and even some black people teach their sons and their daughters, there's clearly a mental health component to it, because what's leading to people continuing to hate each other, again, has some sort of has mental illness to it, because for a person to believe that they are superior and another person to believe that they are inferior, this is something that is mentally conditioned over time, and it's time that people started making efforts to break that mental conditioning and see the reality that's all around them. If you'd like to try some of my SJS Direct publications, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com in the description box. And if you want to help me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.